Brett Johnson, I have tried so hard to get you on the show to have you be a part of this dialogue about identity theft and fraud. We appreciate the work you're doing with AARP and our national office, and that you can become our fraud, identity theft, cybersecurity expert on so many things. And not only AARP and their wisdom that they ask you to work with them, but also I understand you've done some work as well with, was it the CIA or was it the
FBI?
FBI,
Secret Service, a few other law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, all the above. So, but you've approached this from a different angle. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey and why you are now known as one of the nation's leading experts, if not the leading experts on identity theft and fraud and cybersecurity. So talk with us a little bit about your journey that you've done.
Well, first, let me say that you humble me. You truly do. And I got to be honest, it's kind of hard to humble me at times because I've got a big ego. But it's a very humbling experience to come from my background and today to be considered, this individual that helps people instead of hurts people. It's a very humbling experience that AARP brings me in, and they trust me enough to do that. And I want you to know I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to tune in and listen to us talk today as well. Now, that being said, the United States Secret Service called me the original Internet Godfather. Yeah. Now, the way I got that title is being convicted of 39 felonies because 38 just wasn't enough. I was on the United States Most Wanted list.
Yes.
I had an escape from prison. And I built, as if all of that wasn't enough, I built and ran the first organized cybercrime community. It was called ShadowCrew. It was a precursor to today's darknet and darknet markets. It laid the foundation for the way modern cybercrime channels operate today. Those 39 felonies, well, they had to do with refining modern financial cybercrime as we now know it. So if you're talking about credit card theft, phishing schemes, scams in general, tax return, identity theft, any type of financial cybercrime you can imagine, I was on the ground floor of developing most of those. Of course, I went to prison. Of course I did. And, usually that's where the story ends. The bad guy gets caught, he goes to prison, everyone forgets about him. I was very fortunate in that I had enough people that cared about me that they gave me the chance to turn my life around. It was my sister, my wife, and then finally the FBI reaches out, kind of takes me under their wing, and they give me that opportunity to use all the knowledge that I've gotten as a lifetime criminal to help people instead of hurt. And I was smart enough to seize that opportunity. And today I work hard. I work with AARP. I just got listed as the first chief criminal officer in the entire industry for Arcos Labs. So it's been a long journey. It's been a very long journey, but I'm very fortunate. I lead a life that I'm not quite sure that I deserve, but I am extremely grateful for. And the reason I'm able to do that is because of people like you, people like AARP, people that are listening to us today talk. You guys give me the opportunity to do these things. And I want you to know I'm appreciative of it. I'm very humbled by it, and I don't take that for granted.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you using, what was considered once an evil talent for good, to help people right now.
Very evil talent.
You're turning it around. And there's another story there that we could talk about some other time in terms of just how someone can really turn your life around. 39 felonies, going to prison, United States Most Wanted list. And here you are talking with us today at AARP on television and social media. And, in Michigan, we've got an issue here. And I'd like for you to speak directly to this issue, if you would, please.
Sure.
All over the country, there are voting rights legislation and issues going on. In Michigan, we are being asked, there's a petition drive that is asking people to submit the last 4 digits of their social security number and or their driver's license number to mail that in to get an application to vote. So could you just look in the camera and tell folks, how would you have used that kind of information if you had access to it? How could it have been misrepresented and misused in so many different forms?
Sure. So let me start out by saying that I used to be a bad guy, a really bad guy. And if someone was doing something like that, this idea of giving up personal identifiable information, social security numbers, driver's license numbers in order to vote. If you're doing that, you're really putting yourself at risk. It is not a very smart thing to do. Now, what can a criminal like I used to be do with something like that? For example, if it's just the last 4 digits of your social security number. If I know the last 4 digits and I know what state you're born in and what year you were born, it's very easy for me to get the first 5 numbers of that social security number. Very easy. I mean, it takes me maybe 10, 15 seconds to do that. So if you're giving someone the last 4 digits, if you're sending those last 4 digits in the mail, or giving somebody at a counter the last 4 digits or something like that, that's a very unwise move. A social security number is something that you need to protect. You don't give it out for instances like that, and you shouldn't have to give it out for instances like that. Driver's license numbers. A driver's license number is one of those pieces of identifying information that cyber criminals want and need in order to commit a lot of types of fraud against you, in order to victimize you. The issue is that it sometimes becomes difficult for a fraudster and an identity thief to get that information. So if you're giving that information away, if you're putting it on a piece of mail and just dropping it in a mailbox, do you think maybe sort of kind of some of these identity thieves may start stealing the mail? I will tell you they will. I used to be the guy that would steal the mail. I used to be a porch. I've done it all. I've done identity theft, porch piracy, stealing mail, diverting mail. I've registered illegal accounts to vote, everything else like that. I've got an entire history of experience on this. I can tell you in no uncertain terms, it is an extremely bad idea to do these things, to give socials like that, to give driver's license numbers like that. It's just a horrible, horrible idea. Don't do it. Don't do it.
And so when people are being asked, do they want to vote, if that law passes and they want to vote, what options would they have? I mean, I know you might not be able to answer that, but I guess they have to go to the polls. The polls have changed. And so not giving that information out, we're encouraging people, those for listening, we've got a full campaign telling people, don't do this, don't sign a petition, contact your legislators. There's got to be another way to vote safely and securely. This is not the way to do that. And there are some people who push back and say, okay, what's the big deal? The last 4 digits, we give that out all the time. We give it out, people call the bank or call for insurance or whatever. We give it out all the time. So what's the difference?
The difference is identity theft. All right. You're calling the bank. The bank is a secure institution. You know that phone line, that call has you on the line. It's got the bank on the line. Fraudsters and identity thieves, they don't tap into your phone in order to get that number. The bank typically is not even going to ask that. Sometimes they will if you're doing some sort of account change or something like that. But when they ask that question, it's because they are aware they've got enough security and data on their side that when they ask you that, they're pretty well sure they know who they're talking to. All right. When you're just putting those last 4 digits on a piece of paper and dropping it in a mailbox, something like that, it's not a good idea. There are secure systems in place where you don't have to give up that information in order for someone to verify you. You don't have to do that. This is just I think this is a knee-jerk reaction that people are saying, we need to do this. You don't. It's a horrible, horrible security move. If you want to talk about the last 4 digits, the Social Security Administration changed the way that they issue Social Security numbers in 2011. All right. If you're issued a Social Security number prior to 2011, if I have the last 4 digits of the number, as I pointed out just a second ago, if I have the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, if I know the state you're born in, the year you were born, it's extremely easy for me to get the first 5. The Social Security Administration, they realized that back in 2011. Because of that type of fraud that was happening with that, they started to randomize all Social Security numbers that were issued. So if you're issued a Social Security number after 2011, you can no longer do that with the last four. Now, none of our members that we're talking about
Right.
were issued
Well,
social security numbers after 2011.
right.
So
They're a
you
little
are
older than
very
that,
vulnerable.
right?
Yeah, you're very vulnerable to this type of identity theft. Very vulnerable. If I have your social security number, if I have your driver's license number, I can commit any number of frauds against you. I can defraud the government on stimulus fraud, like we saw last year and the year before. I can set up new accounts in your name. I can take over your bank accounts, your credit accounts. I can get your credit report. I can cash out your retirement accounts. Any
Wow.
number of things like that. So if I would really urge everyone out there listening, we want a secure country. Absolutely. I
Right.
agree with that.
Right.
There are better ways to do it than trying to implement an unsecure system in
How,
making people give up socials and driver's license numbers.
thank you for that. Brett, how long does it take? I mean, you said it takes 10 to 15 seconds to find, the rest of the numbers, but identity theft doesn't necessarily make it be like 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes before you even know it's stolen, or is it usually immediately or both?
You could potentially be a victim. There's some types of fraud, like if I'm committing synthetic fraud and using pieces of your identification for that you may never know that I've victimized you, and your credit score continues to go downhill the entire time. It really depends on the type of fraud that I'm committing against you. So, if I'm one thing that you might know pretty quickly is if I were to take over your identity. So I steal a piece of mail and it's got the last four of your social and it's got your name on it. So it's pretty easy for me to figure out what your date of birth was and the state you're born in. I can get the entire social security number from that point. All right. So I've got that. I've stolen your mail, so I know where you live. So I'm going to pull the property report on your house. What am I going to do with that? Oh my, maybe a HELOC loan. You're going to know about that when they come knocking because somebody's taken out a $60,000, $70,000 loan on
Right.
your property.
Wow. Wow.
So it's this thing we really need, and I talk about this all the time. I truly do. We have to be vigilant about our information. We have to, just because you've got some authority out there that says, hey, we're going to make sure that everything's secure for us because we're going to require you to give up the last four of your social, your driver's license number. Okay, that doesn't protect me at all. That makes me more vulnerable.
Absolutely.
That's not the right way to do things. It's absolutely not the right way.
And when you think about vulnerability, AARP, who we represent, right? Those who are 50 and older and their families. And so why are older adults more prone to having their identity stolen than perhaps younger folks? At least that's what some of the data and the research has shown. Are there easier?
Well, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. They are much more vulnerable. And, I have a theory about that. My theory, and, I'm 52 now, and I'm getting up there a little bit. And my theory is that the older we become, we start to trust people more and we become a little less technically inclined. A lot of senior citizens these days, they don't have online accounts. They do what they have to if it's an online service or something like that. They don't really have a lot of computer knowledge. At the same time, they're very trusting. And not only that, but let's be honest, the older you get, the fewer friends you have and things like that. And you don't have a lot of contact with people. A lot of people don't do that. I know my dad's like that, for example. He sits there all day long and he watches cop shows on television. He's not got any friends. His friends are on TV. So, but that type of, as you're getting older like that, you tend to trust more. You don't have as much interactions and things like that. We tend to start to trust, authority more just because it's someone with a title. We tend to put our interest in that or trust in that. And that's the exact wrong thing to do. It's, we live in a country, unfortunately, where a lot of people don't look out for each other. They look out for themselves, or they look out for their institution or their business. And this is one of those instances where you've got some of these people with voting rights that are saying, well, we're just going to look out for this. We're not really worried about the people who are giving up their personal information. But it's when you give up your personal information that you become very, very vulnerable to these types of crimes. And I'm going to tell you, Once identity theft starts against you, once you get a thief that starts to victimize you, it never ends. Okay. It never ends. It continues to go on. I've talked to victims over the past few years. One lady, she was a victim of identity theft. They destroyed her credit, cashed out her accounts, took loans out in her name, everything else. Finally, she puts credit freezes in place. She files all the police reports. She thinks she's got everything done properly. She keeps the credit freezes in place for like 3 years, and then the figures she's okay at that point. She takes the credit freezes off. Within 48 hours, the crimes start right back again.
Oh, wow.
So it's important to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our information. And when you're giving your information up just because of this, when there's more secure ways to do it, that's the wrong thing to do. Absolutely wrong thing to do.
It's encouraging to hear you say that, because we've been preaching that and preaching that and preaching that, we being AARP, for years and years and years. And so the more we can reinforce that with older adults in particular, and I know you talked a little bit about romance frauds, other types of frauds as well, that social isolation, they're at home, they're
Right.
wanting to talk with someone like your father, other than on the television, on the screen. So someone calls on the phone and starts, having a conversation, it increases their chances of feeling comfortable, relaxed, and giving out information, which they should never, ever, ever do. So,
absolutely. I'll give you another scenario. So, you've put your last 4 on that piece of paper. You put it in the mail. A thief comes by. He takes the mail out of the mailbox. All right. So he's got a piece of paper with your last 4 on that. Say for some reason he doesn't generate the first 5 digits, like I told you is very easy to do, for some reason. But instead, he picks up the phone. He spoofs the phone number of your financial institution, so that instead of seeing the phone that he's calling from, you see the phone of your bank. He calls and he tells you he's customer service. He's got the last 4 digits of your social security number, which he recites back to you and asks you, is that the correct number? Well, that establishes enough trust. You start to believe it is the bank. The phone number's right. He's got the last 4 digits of your social, and then he starts asking you to do things about your account. Maybe, we've got an account problem. I need you to give me remote access so we can fix that, or whatever that is. These are the types of issues that arise when you start giving out your information in unsecure ways.
So what should people do to protect themselves? Now that you've scared me and everyone else is listening to death, which is a good thing. We want to be scared. We want to be scared to action. We want to be scared to protecting ourselves and our families. So what should we be doing to protect ourselves?
A lot of it for me is, it's not criminals, cybercrime, identity theft. It's not difficult on the criminal side. It's truly not. It's very easy for criminals to commit these crimes against people. It's not really difficult, it's not really difficult to protect yourself either. You have to be vigilant. That's not hard, but it is hard. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to not be the person just because someone says we require this. You have to be able to say, why? Why do you require that? Why are we doing this? You have to question these things. All right. Is it in my best interest that you're trying to do this? No, it's not. You have to be able to think for yourself.
Right.
We live in a society where people tell you what to think, or they try to. So it's important to be vigilant, to consider your own safety and security, act properly on that. I talk about this trifecta of security, of making sure you got your credit freezes in place, making sure you're monitoring accounts and placing alerts, making sure that you're using a password manager, things like that. But those are actions that you can take, and I want everyone to do that. But you also have to be aware of your environment, be aware that just because you've got an institution or a group of people that want you to do something, that doesn't make it always a good thing. Sometimes it is, sure, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. If it makes you less secure, if it opens you up to attacks or potentially being victimized, that is not a good thing. There are better solutions than that. All right. So please, the people who are out there listening to me talk today, please consider that. I can't make you do anything. I can't. But if you decide to go down this route of giving up your social security number, giving up your driver's license number, I'm telling you now that you are making yourself vulnerable to the type of person that I used to be. And that type of person has no conscience, and they don't care if they victimize you to the point where you have no more money or no more access to anything or anything else like that. They're just there to victimize you. So please be aware of that and act appropriately. Okay.
Wow, what a wonderful way to encourage people and to end. And I don't know who you used to be, but I certainly like who you are today. And I thank you so much. I mean, you are one of the nation's leading keynote speakers on this issue, the credibility. You've lived both sides of it. You know, most of us who have degrees only know what we've learned, the content. You've got the context and the content for this particular issue. And you've turned it around for good for the people that you're working with, the people that you serve, and for our members here in Michigan, our 1.3 million members. Certainly this show and the words that you've shared today will hopefully help them not become a victim of identity theft and help change them and make certain, again, the points, make certain that you don't give out that information freely. Ask why, just kind of go over, ask why do you need this? Why is it required? Do the credit freezes and make certain that you have password managers in place. Do everything that you've heard today. And at least we will know, Brett and I will know that we've done at least our little bit that we could do to keep you as safe as possible. I appreciate you. I wish I could see you. I give you a big hug, whether you like hugs or not.
I do like them. At some point, I'll make my way up there.
All right. I look forward to that. But thank you so much. This was just so powerful, and hopefully it helps somebody. And for those of you who are watching, thank you so much for watching. Please don't just watch us, but share the information, share the content, and make certain that you, your families, and the people that you care about, even those that you don't care about, get this information, and they do not give out their social security number, driver's license, or any other personal information. It's just nobody's business, and it's fraud, foolish. So thank you, Brett. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Dr. Amy Tren, and I'm here with Dr. Joshua June from Great Lakes Center of Rheumatology. It's great to have you here. I wanted to run some questions by you. My patients are always inquiring, I'm immunocompromised. What should I or shouldn't I do? What exactly is the definition of immunocompromised, and what does that mean?
That's a very complicated question, and the answer is a little complicated as well. Immunocompromised is a spectrum of things that reduce your immune system's potential to protect your body by some degree. Now, on the severe end, people with liver, kidney, lung transplants or have HIV and has their immune system damaged are extremely immunocompromised. And on the other end, it's someone that's otherwise healthy, just over the age of 65, has some reduction in their immune system, so technically they have some immune compromise. In our clinic, we use a lot of immunosuppressive medications, and that includes biologic drugs and oral pills that reduce the power of their immune system so that we can stop rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, psoriatic arthritis. However, it does put them at a higher risk to certain infections. So immunocompromise is a spectrum, and we generally put it into one category. So anybody that has some reason to have an immunocompromising condition, we were going to say that they have at least some immunocompromise. Now remember, not just our medications, but having out-of-control diabetes or severe cardiovascular problems and heart disease can put you in a higher level that puts you as immunocompromised. So that does put you all in that same category.
Craig, decisions. You watch the market, you don't know what to do. Do I sell? Do I not sell? Do I buy? Do I not buy crypto? Talk to us about what's going on with the market and how to make good decisions.
Well, it's very interesting that you bring up that topic, just from the purpose of making decision making on the investments. I very much focus on discipline that and strategies that we get involved in with our clients. So we always talk about, does it make sense to get into markets, get out of the markets? Timing the market is probably one of the worst decisions that one person can do. Typically, if you try to time the market, they're always going to underperform the market, because getting out, getting in, you're already going to miss the uptick in the market, or you're going to miss the downturn. or participate more specifically in the downturn, and that has a significant negative impact on returns going forward or overall performance. So our job basically has been to make sure clients understand why they're investing, and then help them to make that decision as to what strategies is best for them in order for income perspective, growth perspective, even understanding the very basic question that I have to ask them. Well, how long do you plan on being retired? Because everyone talks about planning for retirement. Well, then, how long do you plan on being retired?
As many years as I've worked.
Exactly, more often than not. But yet, most people in our industry start to focus and pull back on what their investment strategies are, how much they should have in bonds, how much they should have in stocks. Yet, when I change the perspective, well, you've been working for 20, 30, 40 years. How long do you plan on being retired? 20, 30, or 40 years. So that changes our allocation as to, are we going to continue to stay in a stock strategy? Are we going to be getting into more bonds? So that decision-making process becomes very instrumental for that retirement planning.
So now I'm totally confused because I don't know how long I'm going to. We got to talk later, but thank you so much. That's excellent, excellent, excellent advice.
Amy, thank you for being with us again. We're going to continue our conversation about our care once we've had some kind of hospital stay, nursing home stay, and people are going home. What options are available? Does insurance pay for those options? What do people need to think about post any kind of healthcare situation?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, Medicare is going to cover anything that has to do with your health or rehab up to a point. But what you need to think about when you're thinking about going home is who's going to care for you once you're home. I mean, because a lot of times when you come out of rehab, you're not exactly tip-top shape. So you're going to need a little bit of extra help. What the insurance companies don't cover are things that you do with your activities of daily living. So like toileting, transferring out of bed to your wheelchair or walker, bathing, dressing, eating, all of those things are not covered under your insurance. So that's going to be something that's going to be an out-of-pocket expense. If you are planning on your family taking care of you once you get back home, you might want to make sure that they are aware of that, because there's a lot of people that they don't want to talk about it. And these conversations need to happen. You have to have the conversation, say, look, I am coming home. I am going to need this, 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 and this. And if your family is not down for that, you need to kind of make sure that you've got somewhere that somebody's going to come in and be able to help you. So
and that's so important. I mean, we need to make certain that we plan ahead in order to have a successful post-care experience as well, correct? I mean, that's
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a family. It could be your trusted friend or someone that you know and trust completely. Thank you, Amy. That's excellent information.
You're welcome.
Your right to vote is on the line here, and voting securely and safely and not using your driver's license, not using your social security number. It just makes sense. All right. So please look at the website, get involved. And thank you so much for watching Real Possibilities.